The 2021 federal budget introduced a universal daycare system into Canada. The government declared an investment of $27.2 billion over the next 5 years on a Canada-wide childcare plan and $8 billion thereafter to maintain it. This hopes to allow every Canadian to access affordable daycare across the nation at an average cost to families of $10 a day. Provinces, one by one, developed a program, if they didn't already have one, that is, tailored for their own province to qualify for this new federal funding. Ontario was the lone holdout until today. In March 2022, Ontario announced its program for universal daycare, and some parents are already thrilled for this financial relief. In Toronto, for example, the average cost for daycare is $20,000 and can be more expensive than a year of university tuition. However, some parents are also disappointed that their own daycare choices will not qualify for funding. For example, if you're a parent choosing to stay at home with your child, you do not qualify. Ditto if you're a grandparent or a relative who helps out. Only institutionalized daycare settings are eligible for this funding. But is this the right approach? What about families who opt for a different model than a government-run daycare? Will they be paying more for something they won't use? Does this help or hinder choice? Will a one-size-fits-all program leave many families left out? Will a universal daycare give more decision-making power to the government on how your child is cared for? Later in the program, I'll be joined by Kerry McCuaig, Fellow in Early Childhood Policy at the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education, University of Toronto. But joining me now is Andrea Mrozek, Senior Fellow of Cardus. Andrea, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me on.
So let's just start off the bat. Does the Ontario program hit the mark?
No, it doesn't. It's actually a little bit worse than what you described. It's access only to licensed care. The vast majority of Ontario parents are not using licensed care. So it is a minority of parents who will be angling for these $10 a day spots. And as is widely acknowledged by those who love the system or people like me who dislike this approach, it's widely acknowledged it'll distort demand. So more people will be attracted to the licensed $10 a day spots. And they will not be able to find spaces because the amount of money, though consequential in the billions, is not enough to create those spaces. So the most recent federal budget actually allocated more millions of dollars in recognition of the fact that the program is already underfunded and it hasn't quite started yet, or it's just getting off the ground, as you pointed out, with Ontario signing on.
So in Ontario, if you said like the majority of parents are sending their children to, or there are many parents who are sending their children to unlicensed daycare spaces, would that just not prompt more daycares to be licensed then, and then that would fulfill demand?
No, so I'm on, actually, as the mother of a 3-year-old, I'm on a lot of mommy Facebook groups, et cetera, a lot of parents trying to figure out what this new deal means in Ontario. And then unlicensed operators chiming in as to why they will not be becoming licensed. There's a lot of good reasons for that. As they will always point out, unlicensed does not mean illegal. Some cases, they actually have higher quality standards. They don't want to take as many children as are permitted in licensed care. They'd like to be able to choose how much time they spend outside, for example, and make up their own sort of programs for their kids. I actually think they have a higher interaction with parents. So it's typically home-based care that is unlicensed. And a lot of those operators have a lot of good reasons for not joining. And so what we're seeing is a lot of them saying they'll get out of the business if they are compelled to join. And that's why you'll see a decrease in choice for parents as some of these operators decide not to continue in the business. And that is a point of fact in British Columbia for sure, where operators are frankly being pushed out. To not have private care in the system was actually, I think, a point of it. They don't want private care. They claim it's lesser quality for spurious reasons. And so it's actually part of the plan is to decrease the choices for Ontario parents and Canadian parents.
Well, so this is very disturbing to me because I'm one of the probably many Canadians who don't believe the government knows best for my children. I, as the mummy, know best for my children.